I decided to start this small literature series since most of you had been asking me how to write more professionally or more clearly or simply how to write better. It's hard to explain it in one video since writing is a vast subject and everyone has their own views towards it, which I might consolidate in this video, though there is one pattern or a standard that most writers are supposed to follow, which makes your writings more sophisticated and becoming. Now there are various elements that I would be covering in this video, though I won't be going into much depth. We first start with the layout of a book. How is it supposed to look superficially? It is a quintessential part of your writing and it exhibits a plethora of your writing caliber. If you write 50 words, then that's called a paragraph. If you write 400 words, that is called a page. And if you write 300 pages, that's called a manuscript. Novels usually tend to have about 100,000 words. That's when you will call it a novel. Otherwise, it's just a short story. Then comes the setting of your book. The setting should be such that it conflates with your plot. There are ways of making your story settings more vivid. You use details, that is, you make your own rules, you make your own secrets, maybe even your own mythical creatures, but you have to give details. The second is learning from others. Now, if you're writing a book that is set in Victorian London, you can get inspired by authors like Charles Dickens, so read his books. The next is to make a vital plot. Now, your plot cannot be something that is very cliche or something that is too predictable. If you're gonna write stuff like this, people are eventually going to get bored and nobody's gonna read that. Show time's effect. Time's effects can be the habits of returning home or how the characters has grown old, grown more mature, show that they have changed over time. Use symbolism. What does your setting symbolize? Does it symbolize a happy life? Does it symbolize death or decay? Does it symbolize belief in mythical creatures? It can be anything. Evoke the senses. What exactly should a newcomer see or smell or hear or taste or feel? If there is any new character in the book, what exactly can they judge about the old characters or the characters that were originally present there in the book? Then comes the next topic, how to bring these settings to their inflorescence, how to make them bloom or bring them to life. So you can do that by various methods. The first one is show the settings through the character's point of view. This is something that I promote a lot because what I believe is that when it's the character who's narrating, you're able to grow more attached to the character rather than when the narrator is the one that is explaining or describing the settings. Use time-related details. In winter, for example, a landscape could pose new risks. Then use your setting to reveal the character. For example, if the character is working in an environment like a workshop, then you have to make it look like a workshop. There is always work going on in there. People are always busy and it's usually filled with workaholics. Next is bringing in the senses. Deepen the setting where relevant using scents and textures and sounds. Now for this you might need oxymorons. Build mood. Building moods like using dim candlelight to create a ghostly home. You just need to build a mood for whatever you're doing. A character cannot suddenly kiss the other character without building a mood. That's just gonna ruin the entire excitement that you could have made the audience go through. Next we move on to the story conflicts. Now this is one of the key features of writing a story. What exactly is the main conflict inside the story? Is it person versus a person? That is between two friends or between lovers or between protagonist and antagonists. Then it can be person versus nature. That is the conflict between characters and the environment around them. Let's say some kind of war breaks out or some kind of natural disaster in which they lose everything. After that comes the person versus their self. Their inner conflicts, like the fear and self-doubt, self-destructiveness. Or you can choose person versus society. Struggles between the individuals and the social codes in their world. Note that I said their world, so it usually doesn't have to be the exact world that you're living in. You can create an alternate reality, give certain norms in that world. Norms are basically certain standards that people have set up, and that's what they consider to be normal. So maybe something which is not considered normal in this world is considered normal in that alternate reality. For example, magic. You can use person versus supernatural. That is conflict between the characters and the paranormal or otherworldly events. This is usually what we call a fantasy novel. After that, the next thing that you need to focus on is the point of view in the fiction. So when you use first person, we're generally going to use pronouns like I and we, and the story is told from an individual subjective perspective. Like, I look at the picture but don't know the artist's intent. The second person basically is when you use the pronoun you. It has a choose your own adventure effect. You look at the picture but you don't know the artist's intent. The narrator is basically telling the reader what they are seeing. Then we have the limited third person. So this uses the pronouns like he or she, they or it, or other gender-neutral pronouns. Story told from a person, group, or an object's perspective. So the narrator only has access to what current viewpoint the character sees, or knows, or feels. So this is a very, very limited option. I usually don't go for it. For example, she looks at the picture but doesn't know the artist's intent. So the reader follows single character at a time, like the camera. And finally, we have the omniscient perspective, in which the pronouns are going to be the same as the third person. But in this case, the story is told from multiple perspectives. All seeing narrator looks, and they can share any character's private thought. For example, she can't tell the artist's intent, but she thinks she's judging his simplicity. So the reader can see from any perspective at any time, and it's not very limited. This is what I usually like to go for, rather than the limited third perspective. Now I'm gonna focus on plotting. What you should do while making a plot, and what you shouldn't. A plot is not about contented characters who live a trouble-free existence. Just like in real life, happiness is evanescent, meaning that it vanishes quickly. You never know when you're happy and when you're not. So you cannot possibly make the characters happy all the time. Plotting is not about an author or character's philosophy of life. If your book is completely based on philosophy, then this works. But otherwise, nobody cares. A plot is not based on an author trying to send a message. We don't care about the moral of the story. What we care about is what kind of plot twists you have given. What kind of characters were there? Were the characters lovable, likable, or not? What kind of antagonists were there? Did they have any backstory? A plot is also not about a character battling the elements or the society or a life condition. These were the don'ts of writing plots. Now let's talk about what the plot is actually about. The plot is about the character whose lives have been turned upside down in a negative way. The character who acts and react. The character who talk, breathe, eat, argue, and interact with other characters. Or basically character whose actions and words show a story. This character may represent or personify society or a life condition. This reminds me of another topic, that is how to create a lovable protagonist. If we create protagonists that are not lovable, and on the contrast they're very despicable, very rude, very hateful, the book is not going to do good. So it's very important to create a lovable and relatable protagonist. You can do that by various methods. Let's say the protagonist is in love with someone, or they are in trouble, or it can be both. Feeling this on the first page helps to make the readers connect and fall for the character, especially if the character is in love. But second, if they don't realize how awesome they are. Like other characters like them more than they think like themselves. Third, they defend the innocent. This is where the justice principle comes in. The character is always going to do something good. They're going to make mistakes, but they're going to fix them, and they're going to be apologetic about it. They must be loyal. And what I mean from this is that a character who lies, he cheats, he steals, but still sticks up for his friend, you're going to find him likable. The next is create memory instances. You just create memories with that character, as if you're living with them and you're living in their time. And lastly, use props. what your character carries with him or her everywhere. It can tell you a lot about him or her. Like if they keep with themselves teddy bears usually symbolize loneliness, so you can tell that the character is a lonely person. Now let's just move to plot twists. Plot twists are like an elixir to a seemingly boring novel. But the question arises is, how can you write great plot twists? Now there are various ways of doing it. Firstly, illustrate themes. Ask how a plot twist will broaden themes explored in your story. Delay the reveals. Like, don't just reveal everything in 1 or 2 chapters. Don't make foreshadowing of the twists too obvious. Allow the people to make assumptions. Allow your readers to make theories, to actually engage inside the book. This is what we call as shift suspicion. Another important step is distraction. Throw readers off with twists that precede even bigger reveals. You need to distract the readers. You have to give hints of the possible plot twist that you're going to make. But you cannot make it very obvious, so you have to distract them with other events and just suppress all those hints that you're giving, so that only very keen readers are able to foresee the events that are going to follow up. Next, be careful with an anticlimax. Now, anticlimax are basically twists that feel like you're shrinking the delivering outcome. You're just trying to end everything. Avoid these, because these are going to break your story. Now I'm going to give very general tips to you. If the title is something that they've never heard of, the reader is going to click. Next, research your topic. Now you can't write about what you don't know, so you need to have a thorough knowledge. This is going to be a painful process because opening up the internet and then searching for genuine information, checking if that's correct information or not, is a troublesome process. It takes me about months, like 3 to 4 months, to complete my research before writing any book. Next is organizing your ideas and making a plan or the outline of the story. You can just add in stuff or delete stuff from there, just keep it with you. The next is adding your own style. I know it's difficult to find your own style because you constantly evolve as you write. You will see that within 1 year of writing, your style has completely changed from what it used to be. I have experienced that. Less is more. Don't use 15 words if you can say the same thing within 10. Grammar is important. The next thing that you need to focus on is consistency. Now make sure that you're writing every day and you're not just writing once in a while. Let's say I write on every Sunday. That's not going to make you improve. I'm sorry, that's not how writing works. You have to write every day. When you write every day, you're going to find out new things about your style every day. The next is editing and rewriting. Now, let's say you have finished writing 15 chapters of your novel. What you do is go back to the first chapter and read everything, and then make changes in it, in case you feel like there is a need to make any changes. Then read it again, and again, and again. Give it like 3 to 4 edits, and you'll see that every time you read it, there's something that you either add or remove from it. That's when you know you're getting better. Next is spread your writing for people to comment. This is something which we call feedback. Even if you don't find hundreds of readers, and there are like just 10 readers, it doesn't matter. They're going to give you a feedback. Take it seriously. See what they're trying to tell you. Don't consider it to be insulting that how dare that particular person tell me how I should write. Yes, you do have a style, but there are some things, as I stated before, that are standard in writing, and that is something that you must follow. When you're not writing, read. Read from writers that are better than you. Read and perceive. This also helps you learn new words, helps in enriching your grammar. It shows you the diversity, the various ways in which you can present a particular idea. In the end, you just imbue everything together and conflate it. There's much more to look after as you write. As I told before, I cannot cover such a vast topic as writing into one video. It sounds diaphanous, but it's not. So if you want me to make more videos regarding this, please beleaguer the like button. 1,000 likes and I'll make a video especially based on how to write plot twists.